Welcome back. Live with us tonight on In Focus. There appears to be no end in sight to the ANC's cash flow problems. The party has again failed to pay its staff their salaries for the third time since July. The ANC hasn't given an exact date for when it will eventually pay its staff. It recently turned to crowdfunding in order to raise the fees. Disgruntled workers recently suspended their strike until after the local government elections. All right, on the line now we have ANC's spokesperson Pule Mabe joins us to talk more on this. Pule, it's good to have you with us once again tonight here on In Focus. Now, earlier in the month of September, around the 10th or the 11th, I could be wrong with my date, the Treasurer General had promised that the July salaries would be paid in a week, and the end of September would see the payment of the August salaries. What happened to that arrangement with the employer representatives?
Evening, Tabo, and evening to viewers. Of course, there could have been some delays owing to the fact that the ANC primarily depend on donors to be able to really carry forward its own activities. That's how, and outside getting funds from its own political party funding allocation done through Parliament proportionally according to how many seats a party would hold. It will have shown, even when the disclosure was done by the IEC, that the African National Congress did not really manage to raise sufficient funds to carry forward with its activities. But there is a plan that the Treasury of the African National Congress, headed by the Treasurer General, is working on to be able to address this situation. There are also a number of options that are being looked into to deal or mitigate on the pay bill of the ANC, so that those that work for the African National Congress are not disadvantaged or put in a difficult situation. Yeah. We fully understand the plight of our workers and have been quite humbled by the fact that even under these conditions, they've decided to put the organization first, and they've committed their time and effort to the work of the African National Congress as we march to this 2021 local government elections. We are hoping that sooner than later, these issues would have been dealt with. And the ANC has been quite transparent about its own situation, not hiding everything from the people that are in its employ. First, to issue in writing memos explaining its situation, convene meetings with staff representatives to effectively make them aware of the kind of a situation that the ANC faces, because there are a number of factors that are actually contributing to the situation that the organization is finding itself in. But I can tell you now, Tabo, that the Treasurer General and national officials are working around the clock to be able to turn the tide. And we are hopeful that very soon we will be able to outline a grand plan on what is going to be done going forward.
You speak of options. One of those options was the crowdfunding option. How much did you raise with that crowdfunding?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily have the figures top of mind. It would not have been sufficient at the time to be able to deal with our own situation. You would remember that some of these things are debts that would have been inherited. So what the Treasurer General has been trying to do was to make sure that he deals with the debt situation of the ANC so that the organization is able to attend to all of its programs, including elections. And still living on this one, heavy reliance is based on donors, is based on the kind of trade arrangements that the ANC could be able to enter into. It's also based on the commitment by our volunteers, structures on the ground, our rank and file, to be able to visit communities, do work, reassure our people that the ANC is still that organization that they can trust in as it relates to leading their own municipalities and governing in their own world.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying the crowdfunding could have prioritized paying debt and possibly putting out some money for election campaigning, but it did not prioritize the salaries of the workers.
Not necessarily. All I'm saying is that not sufficient monies would have been mobilized through the crowdfunding, and then I went on to outline some of the recurring obligations that we have got to deal with. For instance, let me give a simple example. I mean, it could be Thabo, who has got a billboard, who believes in the program that the ANC is undertaking. Thabo could come and say, oh, okay, I've got a billboard. I want to donate to the ANC in kind. I will give the ANC a billboard. Or another one, Oscar could come and say, oh, okay, I've got sufficient data. I've seen that the ANC is doing quite a lot on social media platforms so that you could be able to run your own digital campaign. I can give you this. So those are really things that come in kind that are not necessarily cash. Okay. So in that instance, you wouldn't say no, but the ANC has got billboards, but it didn't pay salaries, because the acquisition of that billboard might not have been through monies, might have been in kind, which would then have allowed the ANC to still mount a campaign. And you will be seeing most of those things as we move along. And then from there, because this one of salaries, it's not necessarily, so a donation in kind will not help you to fulfill your salary obligations, because for you to fulfill your salary obligations or meet your payroll obligations, you need money. You don't need in-kind donations as it relates to that kind of an area. But it's one area that the ANC is really paying much attention on, to make sure that it finds what's workable in a very innovative way, given the environment that we are finding ourselves, and also beginning to conduct the necessary reviews so that the organization could still be able to fulfill its own mission of creating a better life for all.
So how much did you then budget for the elections campaign?
Well, in terms of the elections campaign, what would happen is that we will have a sense once the head of elections, together with the team, have now then said, okay, this is our final wish list. Now, once that, and that wish list will be bringing down to the kind of expenditure items that they will have identified, which they believe that are necessary to mount a successful election campaign. And then the treasury of the ANC would then say, we see your wish list. Unfortunately, in the pot, we can only be able to meet so much because we have got to prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4 issues to be able to do our work.
All right. So in essence, I mean, why I'm asking that is because the head of campaign says, no, ANC members will raise the funding for the elections campaign. I'm saying, well, ANC members couldn't possibly assist you in this particular predicament of at least 18 million rands per month of salaries?
Well, there is a number, no, we don't have a salary bill of 80 million rand a month. You know, I don't know where that figure comes from, but we don't have that kind of a salary bill. But just going down to facts, of course, this is what I was just raising. I mean, some of these things that have been done by ANC members would be kind. There are ANC members who own trucks, campaign trucks, that come with loud-hailing devices, microphones, and all of that. When they use their own trucks, they do so in kind. They are not necessarily saying, oh, you ANC, pay me so much for this. There will be many of such things. The comrades of the African National Congress are beginning to come in their numbers, and we must commend them. Some to share their own expertise to assist their own organization, because the ANC, even in its own formative stages, was driven by men and women on the ground who saw the need to liberate the rest of South Africa's people and be able to champion a program that will unite all our people. That's how the ANC came into existence. Even now, in 2021, those that truly love the ANC are still displaying that kind of a character. And we are seeing them on a daily basis, too.
So, Pule, then, in the engagements with the employee representatives, have you given them a fixed date as to when their salary issues will be settled?
You see, a political party like the ANC would lend itself into unfair risk if it talks fixed dates when it is not a revenue-generating entity. I mean, the ANC doesn't, let's take Newzroom Afrika. Newzroom Afrika could be getting an allowance from multi-choice and also making money from selling of adverts. So it has got a clear revenue stream. What is the revenue stream of the ANC? The ANC's membership fee is 12 rand per annum. Not sufficient to actually be able to sustain this organization. Political Party Funding Act has actually cut down what we were previously receiving as an allocation from national fiscus. The levies paid by our MPs and those in the legislatures and across councils, still not enough given the size of our own organization. What has happened in the intervening period is that the Treasurer General has already put forward a proposal to raise our own membership fees, to also expand on our own levy kitty, so that we have got more and more of those that believe in the ideals of the ANC who may want to subscribe, doing so through the payment of levies. So we've got a number of other platforms like the Progressive Business Forum, the Progressive Citizens Forum, which are then beginning to work on the mobilization of resources to allow the organization to function optimally and do their work. We have also introduced what we spoke about, crowdfunding, because there is a belief in the ANC that unless we allow citizens, members of the ANC, those who believe in the ANC, to contribute towards the work of the ANC and also canvass those who are members of parliament to argue for greater funding of political parties, because when there is greater funding of political parties, then it means that the government, through the treasury, through national fiscus, is contributing towards consolidating and strengthening our own democracy. If we want our democracy to be strengthened, we'll have to make sure that there is also allocation from the national fiscus sufficient enough to allow these parties to run, so that parties are not being accused of receiving funding from business people who might otherwise be facing their own situations. We want our parties to be divorced from any of such allegations, because we believe that the programs that we are undertaking are noble, and to allow these noble programs to be able to fulfill the desires of the people that we need on the ground, we will need democracy to be funded. We will need budget allocation to be made towards the strengthening of our own democratic order, in the same way that general elections and local government elections are funded. You are funding elections, then make sure that those that win to be able to govern out of those elections that you have provided funding for are also receiving funding from fiscus sufficient enough to carry forward their program.
Very quickly, I'm out of time, 30 seconds. Are we to read from what you're saying that we might be seeing some more amendments to the Political Party Funding Act?
Well, of course. We are not going to leave it untouched. If the Political Party Funding Act becomes a barrier, like it is almost becoming now, there is no way. Look, we're testing it. The act is out there. If it poses a challenge to our work, we'll have to make sure that we again, in the same way that we attempted, use our own majority in parliament to be able to argue for adjustments of such, like we've done with many other laws, so that there is enough allocated to be able to strengthen democracy. Actually, the day when political parties, even if it's not the ANC, across the spectrum, receive sufficient resources, is the day when we will say we can now hold all of these political parties to account, because we ourselves as taxpayers are contributing towards strengthening the democratic order. So we don't want political parties that are funded by unjustly, and we want to be the ones as citizens that contribute towards strengthening our own political order. The ANC's introduction of crowdfunding is one such a mechanism, because what crowdfunding does, it now gives citizens an opportunity to be able to make contribution towards strengthening of the democratic order.
Pule Mabe, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe joining us on the line.